So here we are, everybody. Once again, I am Bill Wagner, and I get to talk to a ton of awesome people all over the globe. And today I have with me the guys from Hitmarker, and I wanted to talk to them because it seems like I can't scroll through my Twitter feed more than about 3 or 4, maybe 5 posts, and I see somebody wanting a job with an org or a publisher, and or somebody needs somebody to do graphics for them, and so I thought it might be a good conversation with these guys from the UK. So right now where I'm at, it's 8 a.m. Where they're at, it's about 4 p.m. So they've been working the full day already, putting out jobs on their site. And I'm looking at their site right now. They have some really great jobs. In fact, if you want to be the senior manager for the Overwatch League, a senior content manager for the Overwatch League, go over their site right now. That job is open. So I have with me the guys from hitmarkerjobs.com. They're going to introduce themselves really quick, and then we're going to sort of talk about the ins and outs of getting a job in esports, because I'm of the opinion Hitmarker is a lot like many other job boards. You're talking Indeed, you're talking these other, non-esports job sites where you go on, you fill out a resume, you give them a short blurb about who you are, you talk about your experience, you put on a nice picture of yourself wearing a collared shirt for the 1 or 2 times that you do in your entire life. So I'm going to let the guys from Hitmarker introduce themselves, and then we'll go from there. Guys, go ahead.
Good afternoon, good morning, Bill. Thanks for having us on. So first up, this is Richard Huggan. I'm the managing director of the company. Day to day, you'll find me working with Cam on the social media stuff and just managing the rest of the guys in the office. To my left, I've got Alec. I'll let him introduce himself.
So yeah, I'm Alec Piercy. I suppose day to day, I do lots of different things. But in terms of Hitmarker, which has changed dramatically since the start, nowadays I kind of just get the companies to sign up. So I'm reaching out to guys like FaZe or Amazon and trying to speak with whomever does the hiring there, getting them signed up.
And to the right, I've got Cam. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yeah, what's up? My name's Cam Briley. And as Rich alluded to, him and I work quite a lot on the social media together. And alongside that, I'm usually the one posting jobs, although we all sort of pitch in to help each other out on weekends and whenever we can't make a day.
Yeah. So, Bill, the other 3 guys we've got in the office, we have the founder who's down in London tonight for the Esports Awards. He built the website, came up with the concept for the website. He's like a designer, developer guy, doesn't get his hands dirty with too much of the job posting stuff. That's Phil, who's my brother. We've got James, who's a back-end developer, builds a lot of the features that you see on Hitmarker. And we've got Laurie, who is the full-time videographer that we hired most recently, who does a lot of the motion graphics and stuff that you probably see on our Twitter feed every single day. And that's the team of 6 people. 6
guys. Wow, that's pretty awesome. So obviously, when it came to developing the site, now you guys saw a problem out there that you thought that you could solve, right? So what? And this is going to sound, I guess, on the surface kind of stupid because it seems pretty basic what you're doing, but what problem are you solving?
Alec answer. So Alec was here from the very beginning with Phil. He kind of got him in on the idea, and they sat around, and I know a little bit about how it started, but I'll let Alex speak about how he got into it. So the problem that was being solved was that my brother was working on a jobs website for a client who had a jobs board in the sports industry, so stuff that you know well about, like soccer, NFL, NBA, website that was posting a lot of those jobs, and it kind of struck him that there was nothing in esports that was doing a good enough job of advertising roles. And I'm sure then he reached out to Alec and kind of sold him the dream. So I'll let Alec pick up the story in terms of how it all came to be.
Yeah. So from my story, it was ultimately I met Phil, which I'm sure we'll get into like later on in the conversation because that's quite an interesting story. So and then we drifted apart. He stayed in esports and he contacted me years down the line, he was just like, look, I'm building this jobs website. Obviously, we know what purpose the jobs website fills. He said that no one in the scene was really doing a good enough job. But, I don't want to disrespect anyone, but there was people doing the same thing, but they just weren't dedicated to the calls. Seems like they had other things going on. So what he was saying is ultimately, if we put enough time and effort into it, we could be, the leading jobs website. And you could see that from what everyone else was doing. There was no one posting like consistently on social media or posting jobs consistently. People were posting jobs that almost like didn't exist. They were just, young guys trying to find like team players or trying to find investment and stuff like that. So yeah, we set about it, sort of doing it part-time. So I would come home from work when I was working at a tech company in London and flip open my laptop and just find some jobs and post them to the board. So that's kind of how it got started with there was 3 of us at the time. So a guy that isn't here anymore called Craig also helped Phil build it. And yeah, we've kind of gone from there.
So what it sounds like is it sounds like to me is that you guys have been doing this for a while, right?
Yeah, it was April, May of 2017 when the website was first conceived and built. I think the guys will forgive me for saying it was done in kind of a half-assed fashion until November. Yeah, just because everyone had full-time jobs. It was something that they were really just doing as a passion project to kind of help the scene out. So Phil has been involved in esports since the early 2000s, and I think a big thing for him is exactly what you said. It's identifying pain points or problems, and because he's got the skill set where he can build things and design things, he tends to just build websites that are useful for people. So in the past, he's built like a free scrimming website for Call of Duty because he realized that it was hard for people to get teams together to do scrims together. And he's one of these people that you have to rein him in a little bit, because every month you'll see something, he'll be like, oh, we could build something and solve that problem. We're like, we need to focus on the stuff that we've got at the moment. But probably, as you know, esports was super fragmented. It is even still now. Even when I started here in November, so 1 year ago to the day almost, I would be like the social media guy on a day-to-day basis, and I was looking, and everyone was advertising for roles with tweets, kind of taking applications through DMs. There was no talk about whether the job was paid or unpaid, so I was kind of concerned that some kids could be getting roped into some shady contracts. There just wasn't a lot of visibility into the scene. So what Hitmarker tries to do is to try and have one place where it's free to come and post your job, but you kind of accept the fact that you're going to be put under scrutiny because we've got quite a big social following now. We have a lot of respected people in the industry like yourself, and a lot of hiring managers who are keeping a close eye on Hitmarker. So everything we put out has to be kosher. It has to be safe. We have to kind of look out for the people who are applying for jobs, because I've seen you post on Twitter before, Bill, that the job hunting process is a thankless task, and it's something that really, it can drive people into the ground. And I think that life's made a lot harder for candidates than it should be, like not getting replies and not knowing whether your application's even being looked at. So what we're trying to do, and although we do it quite slowly because we do have other projects that we work on outside of the jobs board, is to, every time we release new features, it's to either make finding jobs easier, or it's to make posting jobs easier, or to make the interaction between the company and the candidate easier. So I think we do all feel quite a heavy responsibility to run the jobs board responsibly, to try and encourage good practice and to try and reward good practice if and when we can.
Very nice. And one of the things that I appreciate about what you guys do is that you understand that this is a stewardship. What we're building right now on the whole in esports, this has been a passion project for thousands and thousands of people for many years. And we have a stewardship that we have to pass on to the next generation of people who will really understand, or will really feel the benefits of the foundation that we're putting in place right now. And it's funny because I was listening to what you guys are saying, and the problem you're solving seems really simple on the surface, but nobody's doing it except you guys, and so just the fact that you're creating the database, and you're creating the outreach, and you're creating the foundation, I guess is what I'm trying to say, of what will at some point in the very near future be the place to be. And I'm not just saying that because you guys are here. I've watched you guys, I've watched your competition, I've watched other non-esports job boards, and what you guys are doing, you're focused on one thing, whereas other job boards like Indeed, they're across all industries. So they have so many listings, and they deal with so many companies that it's easy to get lost in the process. And you guys have always been fast to respond to things, and I really, really appreciate that about you guys. I really do. So let's get into some useful information here for everybody out there who wants a job in esports. And we're talking from the top end executives down to the people starting as graphic designers, social media assistants. What are 3 simple things that you guys see that will help candidates be noticed, and I guess what are some things that they can do to stand out?
Yeah, so I think one of the main ones is just showing that you're sort of putting in the effort to really elevate yourself above the other people that are applying. We look at quite a lot of resumes, and the people who send us resumes, there's definitely sort of tiers above it. Like, you'll see a standout resume and you'll remember it and you'll think, this is really great. This hits everything you want in a resume, and it really shows the personality of the candidate and it shows their skills. And then you'll see ones from people that haven't put quite as much effort in, and it definitely is sort of night and day how it presents a candidate. So I'd say effort is definitely something that everyone who wants to get into a job in esports really wants to put in, because it's something where so many people are trying to get into esports. If you really put the time in to really polish what you're sending off to companies, make your resume really clean, make it concise, make sure there's no errors in it.
Okay.
And ensure that you're always writing a custom cover letter. We know that a lot of people send one cover letter to multiple companies.
Right.
And obviously this is like a time aspect. You don't want to be spending all days applying to jobs, which we totally get. But there is definitely merit to making a custom cover letter, because you can just tailor it so much more to a job you're applying to when you write that cover letter alongside that job. If a job's asking you for digital marketing experience, but you've got a cover letter that mainly pictures you as a marketer, just changing that over to make you have those skills that the company's asking for will go a long way, and a hiring manager will see that you put that effort in. So I think that's a really big one.
So now right there, when you say put effort into your resume, what does that exactly mean? I mean, because I can put my name and address, I can put a short description of who I am, I can put some skills that I have, and I can list jobs that I've had in the past. So when you say put effort, so when it comes to my resume, when you say putting effort into the resume, what does that mean?
I think a creative design is probably the main thing.
Okay.
When a company has 50 resumes, 100 resumes for a single job, a creative design is going to catch a hiring manager's eye, and it's going to keep your name in their head a lot more than a resume that looks like every other person's that has applied.
Okay.
So I think coming up with a creative design, that doesn't mean you have to be a graphic designer that can create a sort of a stunning document in Illustrator. It just means laying out your information in a way that isn't as sort of, I wouldn't say bland because that sounds a bit off, but just isn't as basic as the facts. And there it is. Like, esports is an industry with a lot of people who enjoy just being creative and enjoy going against the mold. So if you let your resume reflect that in you, then I think that's one of the key things when we say sort of put effort in, is making sure that your resume is unique and sort of gets across your personality.
Yeah, it's a great one. That, and to expand on that, Bill, funnily enough, we hired Cam through Hitmarker when we had advertised for a written content creator. So to talk about that exact process, to give like a real world example and some numbers to the hiring process, we advertised on Hitmarker. We received a lot of applications for that role. Cam was one of probably 2 or 3 candidates who had a unique resume in terms of it was designed. It wasn't just plain black text in Times New Roman on a white background, which no word of a lie, probably 8 out of 10 esports applications are. Because I think a lot of people just learn to write a resume in school or in college, and they follow a very simple formula that they're given by the careers guidance officer or a teacher.
Right.
And it's always just like black text, white background, has to be very formal. When 80% of the applications you see look like that, they just start to merge into one. Even just adding a little bit of color, adding a headshot, which people push back against us a lot when we recommend that they put a headshot on the resume. It seems to be something that's more accepted in the States than it is in the UK. And people are worried that some of the automatic tracking systems that the bigger companies like Blizzard use disqualify candidates for having a headshot on there. But to us, if you're putting a face, like if you put your face on your resume, a smiling picture, you don't even need to be wearing the collared shirt. It's instantly attaching an image in the hiring manager's mind of the person who's writing the content about themselves. Naturally, that makes them more kind of receptive to what you're saying. It makes you more memorable in the mind. And it's like putting a face to the words. When it's just black text on a white background, it's boring. That's the top and bottom of it. It's boring for a hiring manager to read 80%. And like Cam said, some jobs we post get hundreds of applications. So yeah, putting effort in, even if you can't design, if you just add a photograph, put some color in, make the layout pretty, you've got the guy's attention. The trick to getting a job or to getting an interview for a job is to get the hiring manager's attention somehow, but then to keep it with the experience and the skills that you've got on the resume.
Okay, so what you said is really important right there, because I think that people like especially those who are applying for jobs, when they're applying for 5, 8, 9 jobs, they don't want to. They want it to be as smooth and as effortless as possible. And you're saying that you need to put the time in and understand the business, and not every hiring manager wants the same format. And so you could be qualified for a job, but if your format isn't something that they like, even though you don't know what that is, and that's one of the things that drives me freaking bananas, is that what works for, like if I apply to some esports org in Texas, what works for them is not, it isn't the same thing that works for Activision, because they're 2 separate people. They have 2 different sets of expectations. They want 2 completely separate things. So I think it's important to note is that the people applying for jobs, you have to find the line between putting in the time to make your resume and your cover letter. Make it customized to the position for that company, for each individual company. And then there's a point at which you hit that you're putting in too much time on a piece of paper, right? Yeah, for sure. So if you class that as being our first key point, is to kind of stand out from the crowd with your application materials. Right.
And we should mention here that if you're a designer, videographer, anything creative, you should also have a portfolio website showing off the work that you can do. Even if you're a caster or a host like you are in your spare time,
right.
You should have a website that shows off what you can do, full stop. The quickest way to get hired is showing the hiring manager that you can do what they want you to do. And it's hard to do that in text. If you can show them with a design or a website or a clip of you hosting or interviewing somebody, right, that's going to do a lot more than some words will. But the second key that I'll jump in and say is that focus on the jobs that you're applying to. We see a lot of people who just apply to everything that is like either in their area or is kind of loosely related to the segment that they think they're good at. So you'll get people who are clearly suited to be like a journalist or a social media manager, applying to roles which are more kind of customer service based, which are looking for people who've got interpersonal skills, who've got experience in a customer facing environment. You'll get people who have customer service skills who will be applying to jobs that are asking for technical skills like design and coding abilities. Fundamentally, the hiring manager wants to hire somebody who they know can do the job that they're asking them to do. So there's nothing more frustrating than a hiring manager to open up 10, 20, 30 CVs where all of the applicants aren't relevant to their job because they don't have some of the skills they've asked for, or they don't have kind of the technical qualities that they're looking for. So people can save time by being a lot more targeted in the jobs that they look for. So we try to make that as easy as possible on the website by categorizing everything into different sectors. And we monitor every single job that gets posted, and we try to really carefully put them in the sectors that fit. So if you click on the social media tab on the left side of the page, you should only see jobs that are directly related to social media or where some element of the job asks you to have some social media expertise. Similarly with design, you'll often these days see some social media jobs coming up in the design category because a lot of the big teams now expect their social media manager to be able to produce designs and graphics without relying on a third party. So you can kind of see the skill sets in esports changing already, even at this early stage. People are expecting candidates who can do multiple different things, like what we call Swiss Army knife candidates who've got different skill sets. But the second thing, yes, it takes time to write a unique cover letter and it's a pain in the ass. There's no two ways about it. But everyone should have like the basic formula that they follow. So we have a post on our website which kind of helps people create a general template for a cover letter. And it suggests how you might frame the first paragraph, how you might talk about your experience, and then how you need to finish strong to really like get the hiring manager excited. So you can always follow a basic formula, but definitely change the content of that cover letter depending on the job that you're going for. And the biggest clue to doing that effectively is just by reading the requirements in the job description and making sure that your cover letter is targeting at least the top 3 requirements that the hiring manager is asking for in the role. I know we're talking a lot. There's a lot goes into this stuff. And
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy. But the second point from me would definitely be to really focus on jobs that you know or have been told would be suitable to your skill set.
Okay, so I just want to make sure after the second point that everybody understands this, because what this requires is that people have to pay attention. They have to read the details. They have to just spend a little bit longer than 20 seconds reading something, understanding details, understanding if something is a paid position or is a volunteer position, or even if it's something in between, like an internship where you're going to work for 3 months, you're going to get a stipend maybe, and understand that going in, and then take those details and put them into your cover letter. So yes, doing this sort of thing will definitely cut into the time that you have, cut into the personal time that you have to play Fortnite. But here's the thing, if you want a job in esports, you have to attend the details, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great point. There's a lot of people we see in the scene who come to us and kind of just ask us on DM if we can get them a job or if we can tell them where to go to get a job. And unfortunately, the answer is always the same. It's kind of like, if you're not even willing to put in the effort to search for a job on a website that we've built that makes it really easy to find a job in a specific town or specific sector, then unfortunately, you probably don't have a huge chance of getting the career that you want in esports until your attitude changes. A lot of people just want to be hand-fed, I think, these days. So Cam's point about putting in effort is huge. But I think we'll let Alec go with the third key because he's riled up and he's got one ready to go.
All right, yeah. Go.
There are loads of keys. This is the thing. But what I think personally, so if you've done those two, so you've been like super specific, you've put in effort, your CV or resume is really well designed, you're 90% of the way there. So the only thing I would add to that is be resilient. So we get a lot of DMs from like downhearted people, or even on the statuses, a lot of people saying, this happened, or I didn't get this reply and stuff like that. And we've recently done a poll. And the main thing that gets on people's nerves is that companies don't reply. So you ultimately don't know what the hiring manager is looking for, which you alluded to earlier. They could be looking for like an introvert, extrovert. A lot of hiring managers tend to hire people that are like them. So, or they've had a bad day and they're looking at your CV and something doesn't resonate with them and they're like, nope, sod this guy. Or, so there's so many different things that can happen. So I would say just don't take anything personally. Always be critical of yourself. Like, could I have, done this better? Is this bit right in my cover letter and things like that? But sometimes you do need to apply for 5, 20, 100 jobs before you get that job. Because again, it's a supply and demand thing. There are a lot of people looking to get in esports, a lot of very qualified people that realize there isn't an abundance of jobs. So you need to go for a position that you may be too qualified for. So, you could be up against some really, really talented people. So be resilient and it will come. It's just a matter of time. And don't look at other people, your friends or other people in the scene, and measure your journey against theirs just because they're the social media manager of, E United or something. Don't look at that and think, like, come on, this is shit. I should be doing this. Like, you've got to sort of have your own journey and it will come. You just need to be resilient.
See, and it's awesome that you say that, because this was several months ago. I did a Periscope cast that I don't know if you guys remember, but I tagged you in it, and I went down a short list of some very specific things, and one of the things I said was, just because you have passion for gaming and esports and you've been a gamer all your life doesn't qualify you for anything. You're going against skilled professionals. I have friends who don't give one rip about video games in general, but they see the opportunity and like, well, I can get consistent work with this position, whether it's doing graphics or doing video editing, whatever that is. And they're like, I don't freaking care about esports. I just want a job. And and they're good at it. So having passion as a gamer doesn't qualify you for anything. And being 18, 19 years old and full of energy is great, but if you don't have the skill to perform the job correctly from day one without having your hand held, you're not going to get the position, right?
It's true, but then you end up in kind of the catch-22 for a lot of the kids that come to us and ask for advice, is that they don't know where to get started. I think that's a really big problem that hopefully we're doing something to help solve as well, is that it's tricky to kind of find an org who maybe are asking for volunteers, but who are also going to give you kind of worthwhile experience and maybe a little bit of mentorship as well at the same time. A lot of orgs are just run, as you'll know yourself, by kids who are 16, 17, 18, 19, who think it's cool to set up an esports organization and then kind of try the impossible dream with no money behind them, with maybe a small network of friends who can support them by giving up time. But I mean, it must be 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000 of those that last for more than 3 years to begin with and then become successful 5, 10 years down the line. But it does happen, so people, I don't think, should be totally discouraged from doing that. But for me, it's definitely a problem because there's kind of a skills gap. A lot of the people who apply for jobs at the really big companies, like the likes of NRG, who run the San Francisco Shock, or Infinite, who are behind Optic, they'll ask for a social media manager and they'll receive hundreds of applications, and a lot of them are super, super speculative from the kids that you talk about, from someone who might be a big fan of Optic and thinks that because they are part of the green wall that they deserve to get the job as the social media manager. And ultimately, while Optic want to hire somebody who is a fan of their organization and who knows the players and the history behind it, it's not going to be the first requirement. The first requirement is going to be, can you do design? Have you got proven track record in social media? Have you worked for another big company maybe? Right. But you don't want to kind of squash people's dreams. So we find ourselves kind of tiptoeing on this line every single day, where we don't want to crush people's hopes. We want to try and help people. So we do offer like free resume, cover letter audits for people. We'll always give advice to people who come and ask to try and show them some organizations at the lower end of the scale who we know are run by good people and where they'll get some good experience, and they won't be asked to give up maybe 40, 60 hours of the time per week. They might just be asked for 10, 20 hours where they can manage a social media account, kind of set up some tournaments, get involved in doing some admin in the tournaments. I think anything that you can be doing in the esports scene where you can look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and think, I've grown in a professional capacity, I've learned a skill, I had to deal with a new situation today that I hadn't dealt with before, and I did a good job. It's all valuable experience, and I think if you're doing it in esports, whether you're getting paid for it or not, it's something that can be a big help in terms of your resume and cover letter. But you're totally right in what you say. I think there is kind of a wake-up call at times needed for some kids of that age, where you're either going to have to go to college and get a formal qualification, or you're going to have to start doing something by yourself, build your own brand, kind of like you've done. Make your name known in the scene for doing something, whether it be setting up interviews with different companies, setting up your own website, just doing something different, not just starting a grips company or starting another esports organization where you're probably not going to exist 3 months down the line. But it's tough. Would you have any advice for kids of that age who are kind of stuck, struggling, and don't know where to go or who to go to?
So the only advice that I give to people is I guess the same advice that I gave to myself. I am ultimately responsible for all the results that I'm ultimately responsible for everything that I want in my life. So if I want to be a writer and talk to people and do interviews, then I got to do that. And there are great free tools and platforms to do that. There are a lot of people who are willing to give, advice here and there, but ultimately it's about what you create and the results that you have. And so, when I started writing online, this is back in 2014, I still have the very first post that I wrote online. And it's a steaming pile of garbage, but I keep it because I'm like, well, that's what I used to do. And then, here I am 4 years later, I do this now, and this is way better. I get way more looks and way more clicks and way more people that actually want to talk to me instead of me going, will you please talk to me? Please, just give me, 5 minutes of your time. So I always tell people that they are ultimately responsible for themselves. And if they expect somebody they don't know or met once to give them everything, it's going to be a sad day. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I think you're right. And I think Alec, out of the three, me and Cam tend to be the harsher two in terms of we would fall more in line with your philosophy, but I think Alec kind of he ran Hitmarker from the beginning, kind of following the philosophy of Gary V. And Alec kind of follows that philosophy in everything that he does, and I do think that because of that, Hitmarker does try to follow that kind of path as well, where if someone comes to ask for help, even if they ask what might be the dumbest question and they don't even ask it in the most polite way, I do think we'll at least try and help them, at least give them some guidance, point them in the right direction. But Alec's probably going to be better than me at explaining this.
Do you know why that is? Because I even read today, there was a study done of 180 teams within companies, so they're like the most successful teams, and like the most all thing that they had in common was that they have like safe zones to say stupid shit. I say dumb stuff all the time. I am not like academically clever whatsoever. So this is why I now don't run the social medias, because I make spelling errors left, right, and center, and Rich kills me for it. So like, I just always believed, and what I learned from Gary V, one of the big takeaways I got from him was that ultimately, like, karma is practical. So I suppose we think of karma as like this thing that doesn't really exist. It's just like, good karma. But like, if you're kind to someone, if you help them with no agenda, it will come around full circle. So that's kind of how I try and live my day to day, and how I wanted Hitmarker to be, and how we do things. You know, I mean, we help people, and we're not thinking, oh, this guy could be the CEO of this company one day, but that may happen. And you know, he's probably going to thank, or she's probably going to thank us for being there, you know, and helping them at the start. So that's kind of the way I do it. But
we're playing the long game, Bill. That's what we're doing.
It's a long-term strategy. We might all be dead by then, but we'll see.
You know, I feel the same way sometimes. I've been doing this, like I said, I've been online trying to do my own thing now for going on 4 years. I've been in esports a little over a year and a half, and I often feel the same way. I try to be nice to people, you know, like you said, I try to give people advice and share things and find things to help others. But there are days that I'm like, okay, I hate everybody. You can all just go straight to hell. I'm done with y'all today.
Yeah.
Oh,
I usually get that like between the hours of when I'm on social media on the weekend cover, doing it between like 7:30 and 8:30 before the baby wakes up.
Oh.
Yeah, that's sometimes when you'll get me being snappy with people, but I try and redeem it as soon as I can.
See, and the awesome thing about social media and writing is that you can type something out and then stop and read that and go, no, you know, I like my job and I don't want to be fired today. So, you know, delete, right?
For sure. But yeah, it's good.
Well, guys, thanks very much for making some time for me today. I know that it's for you guys. It's at the end of the day, and that you have a ton to do. Being on social media and finding all these awesome opportunities for people. So as we wrap this up, is there anything you want to promote? Anything that you guys want everybody to see before we shut this down?
Yeah, just the only thing I think we could say, because I'm guessing a lot of people into this are going to be people who are stuck looking for jobs, who are maybe looking for answers. I think the easiest thing we can do is kind of invite them to get in touch with us on DMs. Cam's going to thank me for that one, because Cam runs the account from Monday to Friday. But get in touch with us if you've got questions. We do have a really in-depth career advice section, which we wrote completely based on our own experiences of running Hitmarker for the last 18 months. So it kind of is very esports specific. It's not just generic advice that we've ripped off from Indeed or Monster or one of the big guys. There's a lot of really useful content in there about showing people how to build a resume. We give examples. We even give a downloadable example. We've got full cover letter guidance in there. So I think that'll be a useful place for people to go to. In terms of promotion, not really. Just if you're looking for esports jobs, hopefully people already know that there's only really one place to go. And keep coming. And Alex is going to jump in to finish off.
Yeah. So I have got two other real quick points, and like someone more at a senior level, like maybe like yourself, I think producing content is huge. If you're an expert in a field, you should be teaching people that field of expertise. So and showcasing what you know through content. So one of my friends, Dean, is the development director at EA, and he produces lots of books and sells them on Amazon. And that I know really helped him with his career. He does lots of talks and stuff like that. So if you're of that that expertise, or you're senior, you should be doing something like that. The other thing that I think applies to like everyone across the board, everyone should be doing this flat out every day, is networking. And it doesn't have to be like traditional, like, hey man, like shaking hands and things like that. You can do it on LinkedIn, but don't do what people do to me. Don't just be like, hey, I see that we've got lots of mutual connections. Let's connect. That is not, you're not adding any value there whatsoever. Try and make it a little bit more personal. Try and find out about that person. See what they're interested in, see if you've got any, commonalities, or if you can add value, which can be hard if you don't have the expertise, but if you do, give them a message that is actually valuable, and, you're bound to connect and try and get to know that person. Make your LinkedIn connections valuable, just ask them how they're doing and stuff like that, and talk to them and stay in touch. So they're the two things that I think are super important. The last thing was promotion wise is we are potentially going to be nominated for what was it?
So like I said, the founder of the company is down at the Esports Awards, which you've probably seen are happening in London tonight. And he's there as a guest of Deserto, who are up for best esports publisher, not publisher of the year, but coverage website of the year. Hopefully those guys will win. But we were quite aggrieved to not be nominated in the best support and agency category.
We need you to all collectively come together. If we don't win this award next year, we're going to be up in arms. It's going to be the killer. So yeah, that's the only promotion we've got.
Yeah.
Okay, well then obviously we need to get back together several more times during the year to promote you and get you out there and show what the awesome tools that you have, and so I think that's something that'll work. And I really love what you said about LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn is an untapped gold mine of when it comes to social media. I get that esports is on Twitter and that's where it lives, but where you handle the business of esports is on LinkedIn, and I get people to ask me that all the time. They're like, it's like LinkedIn is stupid. It's like it's just a big cocktail party. I'm like, no, man. So LinkedIn is awesome, and the magic is in the DMs. I'm telling you right now, the magic on LinkedIn is in the DMs. If you form the connection, you can get a lot done in the DMs. So I always tell people that is that you regardless of what you do, if you do video, if you're a writer, if you do social media, if you do graphics, be on LinkedIn and just produce some decent content. You don't have to go overboard. You have to respect the community and understand the standards. But once you get that piece down, the magic is in the DMs, and I always tell people that. So guys, thank you very, very much for making time for me today. I know that you're busy. It's almost 5 o'clock where you are, so I better let you go really, really soon. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. This interview and all the other great stuff will be on thegamehaus.com. Check out thegamehaus.com, Haus, thegamehaus.com. Follow them on Twitter as well. Guys, thank you once again for making time for me, and and hopefully, and I think it would serve the community well, that at least once a month, I mean, at least every 30 days we get together and we talk about something more. So guys, thank you very much. I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Bill.
Awesome.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Bye now.